Good morning. Today is December the 2nd. It is still not late enough in the month that I'm not quite totally sick of Christmassy music yet. It literally just started raining as I started to talk. I didn't really think I was going to have something to talk about today, but I actually do, and it's commentary that I'll just leave to your own interpretation. We're in the area that the pulsing sounds around. I'm actually doing a multitasking thing today. My older vehicle basically kind of semi gave up the ghost last weekend, and I'm kind of for the first time taking it out to assess its drivability while I determine how long I'm going to have it. I've since gotten a new vehicle too, so I have a workable car. I just want to, when you have a car as long as I've had the other one, sentimentality kind of takes its role in things, and I'll have to decide how I handle that. Nothing but just personal observation. So we're going to get going. We're going to see what's in here, and I'm going to walk towards the pond I just saw, because I think I saw movement back there, making me wonder if I'm alone out here or if that's in fact like some kind of an animal in there, which would be a first. Actually coming up on something, because it was big, whatever it was. So we're going to do that, and let's see what happens. We'll be back in a bit. We're at the pond. As much as there may have been movement in here looking around, it could have been my eyes playing tricks too. There's just me, which is usually the norm. It's typical of this time of year. It's all frozen over. You got a couple of beaver dams over there, so they and the muskrats are probably hanging out, having high tea in the mound 1 or scenic East Wing Mound 2, or lodge, I guess they call them. And in case you're wondering, yes, that is a thing. It's been determined that muskrats and beavers will cohabitate during the winter. Apparently they get on well enough they do that, so go figure. But good for them. They're little water going little rodent buddies, whatever. Anyway, so if we do nothing else today and we discover nothing else in here, I just walked by an interesting sampling of mushrooms. Over there, there's like, what the hell, I'll show you. So on the tree itself, you got these white ones. Then you got the green ones over here, and then if you go over there, there's like a whole another set of brown ones. What people don't really, unless you're like a lichen nerd, which is a thing, by the way, you don't realize when you're out here the diversity of mushrooms and things like that out there. Like right here in this one area, there's like 3 different species right there. Which, if you're into, you might find interesting. Are those may be different than these, which are different than these, and then they're the brown ones on the ground. I'm sure there's more here than those, but for those into that kind of thing, I know that I've hiked one time with a woman named Trisha who is apparently into that to some degree. And so, Trisha, if you're watching this, there's a lot of mushrooms in here if you ever find your way over this way. A little bit out of your neighborhood, but nonetheless. So, if we do anything else today, we're going to do a brief update on things. And so for this week, I could have gone to Vermont. The weather is not that bad, but things with the transition of vehicles is the nature of that's going to keep me close to home because I have to deal with some logistics because of that. And because of that, we're here instead, but this is fine too. Beyond this, you're kind of in the crunch time for hunting season. It ends on the 31st. You're in the beginning, so you're down to the last few weeks of it. Which happens that way anyway. Should I go hunting, I have to remember to bring the old car, because that's where my hunting license is. Not that you care about that, but just an observation. The one thing that's kind of a sad commentary today, I'd been operating a page on Facebook that gives some rather less than subtle commentary to the nature of some of the failings of the community. And to illustrate the abuse of not just YouTube, I mentioned this last time, but Facebook as well, People are pathetic, gutless little whiny 5-year-olds. Why do I say such a mean-spirited thing? Because people that oppose your point of view, not just in Bigfooting, but this seems to be a place where it gets contentious, in sympathy with the Tall Ones podcast, he did a live stream kind of comment to his YouTube channel during the week along the same lines, where basically he has people reporting his videos as quote unquote hateful because they don't like his cut. They don't like the cut of his jib, because there are people out there. There was some kind of animal poo that they are either selling the woo or they're grifting people, and they don't like to be called out. There is a bigger bunch of poo, leading me to think that there's a moose in the area. And God forbid I see him one day. But yesterday I did actually have a brief encounter, although in my own neighborhood, in the heart of where there used to be woods and now there's suburbia. I had a brief conversation with a barred owl that I posted a picture of last night, which actually came out a lot better than my... There is somebody over there. There's a hunter out here. I wasn't wrong. There's a person here. I'm kind of trailing somebody. All right, so I won't... Who is that? Is that a hunter or is that a... That actually could be somebody foraging the mushrooms, but there is clearly an older gentleman over there. His gray hair gave him away. I'll stay over here and give him some space for a minute while I'm commenting. But never take away your peripheral vision out here in the woods. So they basically will hit the report button rather than debate the issue. And here's the thing about the grifter types anyway. They don't want to debate because there's nothing for them to debate. They're slinging bullshit, and they know it. So when you call them out on that, the only weapon they have is to misuse the system and basically hit the report button. And that's what's apparently happening to the Tall Ones. And I had that happen to me this morning. I woke up in the page I'd been operating, which, number one, doesn't really go out of its way to advertise itself. It wasn't the largest price. It wasn't being boosted or anything. It doesn't say, hey, look at me. But apparently the opposing viewpoint found it, and they did the same thing to me, and they hit the report button like scared little bitches, and they took it down, or it's been suspended for 180 days, which effectively does shut it down. That is not a hunter. That's some guy out here doing something else. But he's kind of winding his way closer, so I'll take a segment break so we don't get interrupted or interrupt him, and just be a tip of the hat as we walk by him. It's also good that I know he's there in case I did have to like drop trow and take a poo out here so he doesn't walk up on me. I've never had that happen to date, and I'm not really looking to have it happen now, to the mutual embarrassment of either of us. But that's basically what happened. They hit the report button, and Facebook, being the lovely bastion of discussion that it is, shut it down because somebody is butthurt and doesn't like my opinion on things, but it's not going anywhere. And I could just as easily make another one, move over all the content to it. Because all they really do is force it into an inactive, what they call an unpublished state. I can just take all the shit and put it on a new one. If I was feeling stubborn, but whatever. I'll ponder that later. I'm watching this guy from a distance. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing out here. Anyway, I'm going to take a segment break. Should I talk? I don't want to walk up on him and have him on video if he doesn't want to be on. I'll respect his privacy. So we'll take a break. We'll be back. We seem to have passed each other at about probably 150 yards or so. He didn't see me, which is interesting. So my observation is he's out here doing some form of hunting, as I did see he was carrying a rifle of some kind. But he doesn't have a lick of orange on, which is in violation of the regulations. I mean, mine isn't bright orange, but I'm wearing a form of orange anyway. Not perfect, but it's what I have on me. So He, on the other hand, is hunting and doesn't have any orange. And it's just by luck that I saw the guy, because he's moving around kind of quiet. So likely not a shotgun guy, more of a, he could have a 30-06 or something with him, but a little concerning that he's like not really noticing me, number one, and number two, he's not wearing orange. This is kind of how hunting accidents happen. So if I see him on the way out, I shall appropriately scold him for a lack of orange, because I mean, mine's not perfect, but at least I made an effort. This guy's like kind of walking around in Rambo mode and not cool. Anyway, back to our subject matter. Whenever I run into somebody like that, I could have said hi and let him know that I was here, but it's also kind of an interesting application from a hunting perspective, your stalking skills, and he did not see me. Which is interesting because I wasn't really trying all that hard to be silent. I did crack a few leads. I mean, 100 yards, maybe you don't hear that, but I'm not being completely noiseless. I'm also yapping into a camera, and although I'm not talking that loudly, I don't think. At a certain range, you would probably hear that. Or maybe he knows I'm out here and he just doesn't care. I don't know, but this time of year out here in the woods, the reminder is, most dangerous thing you're going to probably run into is a mishap with a gentleman like that. So at this point, him not knowing I'm here, considering he's older, I don't know. Maybe he's hard of hearing or something, which is probably another reason he probably shouldn't be hunting. I'm kind of wondering why he is out here like that. He probably shouldn't be. Just my opinion. Anyway, you could take my grievance with the suspension of the page, and you could apply this probably to political discourse as well, which is a whole different tirade, where there's no attempt at civil political discourse anymore. You just you hit the butthurt button. I'm not even going to call it the report button. You hit the butthurt button, and you try to silence the opposing opinion because, thanks to Gen Z, and I am going to do a generational curmudgeonly comment here, because you little whippersnappers can't fucking handle criticism and disagreement, and you get all triggered, and you've been coddled freaking into spoiled little so-and-sos, and everyone's like mental health, and that is a righteous thing. I wonder if he was in that blind that's in here somewhere. We're right on top of it, too. I wonder if he was in there. It's right there, actually. He was kind of walking from this direction, but he was actually down by the pond. Wonder if he's here for deer or ducks. Anyway, not that he went off that way, so hopefully he doesn't take a pop shot at me. That would not be... I don't know how to... I wouldn't react well to that, because I'm not invisible in here. Anyway. They can. I actually read an article on this. I'm not just whining out of like, this is what's wrong with your generation, but there actually was an article I read that says that Gen Z specifically have been raised that they cannot handle opposing viewpoints. And they will, that's where you have a lot of this like cancel culture and things like that going on, where they cannot handle. So I either heard like a truck thing shut or a gunshot. So maybe he drove up in here, which he has a truck in here somewhere. Which is interesting because you're not supposed to have vehicles in here, but... So he's violating two things now. He's violating the fact that he has a vehicle in here, and he has a complete and total lack of orange. which is interesting. But they don't have the ability to handle, like, somewhere along the lines, the maturity of agree to disagree has died in adult discourse. And like the way they were presenting it, it was basically like in the workplace, you have Gen Z and you cannot say something that offends them. And the problem with that, and I'm going to touch upon a dangerous subject, and that's going to be the transgender situation. Because where I will not personally touch this subject, and I am not giving an opinion either way, because that is a lightning rod issue for some, and where it delves into dangerous territory is when it comes to like women's sports and them wanting to participate there. Because in a situation like that, from a completely outside observational stance, you are either anti-women or you are anti-trans. And you can't have an opinion one way or the other without pissing off one side of that equation. And these are the conundrums you run into in this kind of a situation, which can be frustrating. You just don't touch that. I mean, and here's the thing. I work right now in a school system environment, so you don't touch that subject. You just stay away from it. You can and will lose your job if you are overheard. We actually, a year ago, had an investigation into a school nurse who had said something more homophobic than transphobic, but it was enough to get an investigation going, and I do believe they lost their job. So you can't go there anymore, and that is the world that we live in. But, and again, I'm not voicing an opinion either way. It's a subject I will not touch with a 10-foot pole, simply because of that. Because you run into this cancel culture and all this. I'm not going to. My only observation is, like so many other communities out there, you have the loudest and the most militant people in that community, like in the right wing and the left wing, politically, that are the ones that are making all the noise. So it's that much harder to have a civil discourse with anyone on that subject. So I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. At work, you can forget it. I have no opinion. Mom is the word. Anyway, I've digressed. I'm going to recollect my thoughts. He's making, I don't know what the fuck he's doing over there. Maybe his truck broke down. Maybe I'm giving him a jump on the way out. Anyway, I'm going to take a break and we'll be back again in a bit. So I'm not going to talk too much for a few because we're coming up on a blind right over here. I don't know if we're intruding on somebody or not, so let's not. Although I'm still bothered that guy raises the several talking points on hunting safety, really. Literally had no orange on. That bugs me. As I sneak up on this blind. If anyone's in there, you're not alone. Don't freak out. Nobody home. So he's facing down in there. I think he'd have a better view this way, but whatever. He can change his chair, obviously. I don't know if the old guy, that's his blind, because he was never really anywhere near it. And he's kind of walking around. Probably not dangerous, but with a couple of brazenly obvious violations, I wonder if he's poaching. It would not be the first time I've run into a poacher out here. And from observation, some are smarter than others. And the like. Anyway. The civil discourse thing, though. It's a sad thing because there are pages out there and there are groups out there that are peddling nonsense. I know they're there. There are some that are not guilty of it every day, but they just, for the sake of popularity, they allow any and all opinions out there, which is kind of a mixed blessing curse thing, I guess, because on the one hand, you allow everybody their fair say in things. And I've tried doing this in my own groups, and I unfortunately have to say I don't think it can be done. before too long, you will have the proverbial one bad apple come in and be so forceful in their demeanor that they just will ruin it for everyone else. And this is like, the argument, this is why we can't have nice things, because you can't just agree to disagree. I mean, so if you want to say you believe in X, tell me why. Make your case for it. Not, no, you have to believe this or I'll report you. Which is unfortunately what it seems like it's come to in a lot of cases. Now, they only took my page down for 180 days. That's like, what, half the friggin' year? So, it seems to me that either Facebook's moderating policies are so draconian these days that it's not even worth delving into the subject on any basis. Or you had a brigade, which is basically the act. One person goes into a group. This is on the Facebook. Brigading is actually a Reddit term, but I'm applying it to Facebook. One person goes into a group, they report a page or something with the opposing viewpoint. They don't like it. They whip up a frenzy, and then you get 1, 2, 20, 40 people or whatever to go in and mass report the page. And because of that, they basically, what you're doing, you're not trying to work with the human element in Facebook. You're basically doing is you're flooding the system, so to speak, and you're loading up the algorithm with reports, and then the algorithm will smack down whatever you're trying to take down. And it is unfortunately an easy enough thing to do. And the thing that I have to make an observation, and I do kind of have to take sides on this one, you don't typically see the skeptical-minded people doing this. You see the people that are pushing the bullshit. Because on some level, they surely know that it's bullshit. And there's going to be somebody out there who is vocally tearing down the bullshit. And because these people, unfortunately, with the subject of Bigfoot are usually in the minority, it's an easy enough thing to do to try to silence them, which raises the obvious question, will I allow this to stand? I will delve into it when I get home and I'm actually on the computer. I tried to appeal the decision on my phone, and the CAPTCHA form, for whatever reason, either is loaded so you can't make an effective appeal, or there's something on Android that doesn't let that work. So I will revisit that when I get home. If it's something where I can't do it, then I'll just throw up my hands and say, I'll just start another page, should I feel so moved, because I will not. The thing about this attempt to do this is when you truly do believe that these people are peddling bullshit, it compels you to just keep going and keep talking, because apparently it bugs them a lot. And there comes a point where it becomes a little bit of a vendetta on both sides. But in the regard, so there's the egregious ones I've covered in the past. You have Matt Johnson and the Zorth nonsense. Here you have a licensed therapist who is preying upon the hopes and dreams and wishes of cancer patients and pushing Zorth as like something that can heal you, or so the claim has been made. If even half of that is true, not only should this guy not be in Bigfooting, he should not be allowed to have a license. And quite honestly, what I do know of the gentleman is at one point he did actually have a traumatic head injury, which raises questions about his own state of sanity. So how do you have an insane person giving therapy to other people with mental issues? That's a problem to me. Should be to you too. The obvious grifters, you've got Todd Standing, who's complete bullshit and always will be. Those who say in Todd we trust are basically people that are either Todd as a sock puppet, which is an account pretending to be somebody else, or it is basically somebody who is completely out of their fucking minds anyway. And then you get into the people that are not kooks but are actually grifters. You have Melba Ketchum, you have Scott Carpenter, you have David Paulides and Steve Isdall. These people are grifters. They know they're peddling bullshit. In fact, I had somebody I had to remove from the pages that was spamming them recently who is kind of self-patterned after Steve Isdall as somebody who can take you out tracking Bigfoot in the snow, and he'll show you how to track casts in the snow. But first, you need to find those tracks. And down here, at least in northern Connecticut, God forbid you actually have to have some fucking snow. We had a little bit one day, but it was all wet, sloppy shit, and you really can't track in that. Not effectively, anyway. I'm sure he would tell you differently in the middle of his sales pitch, but whatever. When I think of the grifters right now, those are the major ones. I don't know what's happened to Tom Biscardi. He seems to have dropped off my radar anyway, which is a fine thing because he was full of shit too. Something that is basically bullshit on a lesser level is a byproduct of the conference industry, which is what it is. Don't kid yourself. And that is the tendency of social climbing, where you'll have like local group. The East Oshkosh Bigfoot Society has like two guys on a speaking lineup alongside Cliff Barrickman and Jeff Meldrum, who I hope is feeling better. Last I heard, he was actually recovering and getting better. So Jeff, if you are, we give you well wishes. God look after you and hopefully takes care of you. I don't know if he's older than me, but he's not quite old enough to give up the ghost just yet. He's young enough. He's still got enough time that he doesn't need to be a Bigfoot martyr just yet. But, you know, they'll have like the Meldrums, not the Melbums, not the Melbas, not the Melba toast. They'll have the Meldrums and the Barrickmans and people that are known. And then they peddle their guys next to them like they're on an equal footing with them, even though these are people that might have been in Bigfooting for like a week. Hey, let's have a conference. I'm going to speak too. The major problem I have with the conferences, here's a mushroom diversity example from my last comment, my previous comment. But the problem I have with them is you don't see any new material being covered. It's the same people giving the same presentations year after year after year. And oh, here, buy a t-shirt from this year. It's like, it's a Comic-Con. I mean, you have people calling these things like conferences, one of them's a symposium. Okay, I did that. One of them's a symposium where you can go and shake hands with the stilt man in the Bigfoot suit and buy the t-shirts and all this other loveliness. It's a Comic-Con. It's a Bigfoot Comic-Con. And there may be those out there that live and breathe and get their money from their life like these. But that's what it is. And if that offends you, you have a hobby manifestation in the subject. I don't, and life will go on if we have differences over that. Again, feel free to agree to disagree, but don't be a sniveling, whiny little bitch and hit the report button on my post because I hurt your tender little feelings because you bought a t-shirt from a symposium and felt all good about yourself. That's a you problem. That's a you problem, and I know from personal experience that therapy works wonders. As a subtle hint. And we've covered mental health issues so we're not going to go there again today. Today's a weird mix of people that are whiny little bitches that hit the report button too much and hunter safety because that old dude had an orange on it and pissed me off. It's only by the luck of the fact that I saw his gray little hair on his little silver fox head, and I could see him. Because again, if he sees me and if he's a trigger happy little so-and-so, although 30-odd 6 types are kind of like more in the league of bow hunters where they don't tend to take pop shots. Those are shotgun guy things, but you really do need to have peripheral vision out here. Of course, if the guy did take a shot at me, I know I wouldn't take it well. I don't know what I would do specifically, but I know I wouldn't take it well. I'd probably not be overly generous towards the gentleman if he had done that. I really appreciate not having my head blown off by somebody that can't tell humans. So for the sake of giggles, just out of the principle of the matter, when I get home, I'm going to try to appeal and reinstate the page. I haven't really heard of people winning appeals much, so again, this is more out of the principle of the matter. But and I don't blame people, I blame the algorithm, but you blame the people for being overly reliant on that algorithm, I suppose. And that is kind of the shame of the whole thing, though, is the fact that the system can be, you have people that don't like being disagreed with that have learned to game that system, and they hit the report. I'm not complaining because somebody got the page taken down. All it did was make commentary along the lines of what I'm doing right now. If Bigfoot is out there, it is a flesh and blood thing, in my opinion. It is not a portal jumping, mind speaking, which is telepathy, you redneck douchebags. Tree people transforming Zorth-like spirit animal thing without proof. If you're saying it is, prove it. If you can't, keep it to yourself. Because if you say things like this, there are always going to be those people out there that say, what do you have to back that up? If you don't, you look silly. No apologies offered. And, if you're so weak-minded that you have to trim the pieces off of a puzzle piece to make the piece fit, it ain't the right piece, number one. Number two, it doesn't really give good commentary towards your strength of resolve, I guess we'll say. You kind of have to cheat to win. You can't win a debate, so instead you'll go and just it's basically the equivalent of putting your fingers in your ears and going la 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 till the other person gives up. And then, like in the true fashion of a 5-year-old, declaring victory in an argument just by being the loudest one, with arguably the more lung capacity or whatever. But that typically is not how that works. No, that is not a glyph. That is a bunch of sticks on the ground. Pretty pond view in the distance. When I get up here and get a better angle at it. Weird looking burl thing over there. We'll walk over there for a better look. And I'm shifting gears because I think I've beaten on the subjects du jour as much as really possible without becoming like more of a rambling kind of thing. But there you go. There's another one over there up higher. You do have some interestingly weird segments of woods in here. And as I said, every time you come here, it's one of those areas that always looks a little bit different. That probably is about all I got today. So, in summary, if you are the one that hits the report button rather than debating a subject, you are, in fact, a little bitch. You know who you are, and you suck. Anyway, and to the hunter guy, I feel like I should report you for not wearing orange, but that calls my own choice into question, so I won't risk being seen as a hypocrite doing that. But had I had an incident with you by way of you taking a pop shot or something, I would have reported you. Don't kid yourself. Anyway, that's about all I got today. Like I said, I had a mixed bag of motivations today for coming out here. Tomorrow's going to be rainy all day, so that'll probably have me doing more indoorsy things around the house. It's like the one day I do have to do that. So on the way out, like, subscribe, leave comments. Don't feel the need to hit the report button if you don't like my opinion. You can leave a comment and tell me why. And you can have this old thing called the debate. And you can justify your opinion, and we can have a discussion like adults do. You don't have to be like trying to just shut everybody down that doesn't. And that's how I feel about that. Anyway, this is about as far as this one's going to get. If I see the gentleman on the way out, I will yell at him for not wearing orange. Just because I'm an asshole. And we'll catch you the next time. See ya. Bye.